Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this episode. And today I wanted to talk about Cynthia Bailey and the new relationship that she has with her fiance, Mike Hill. Now, this is something I wanted to talk about for a while, and I've been meaning to record this episode, but I thought it was appropriate to do it now since we are showing and seeing the second episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta's virtual reunion. Now, Cynthia Bailey, as you all know, she came onto The Real Housewives of Atlanta's franchise several seasons ago, and she's been on holding a peach ever since. At first, she was with Peter, and Peter was a polarizing figure. A lot of people didn't really care for Peter. I like Peter. I honestly felt like, even though some people felt like Peter was nosy or he was always in the woman's business, Cynthia tends to be on the fence or play the middle a lot. And a lot of times some of the women would call Cynthia a flip-flopper, and that's been seen. I understand why sometimes with Cynthia she would not really just hold one opinion and stay there or just stand her ground. She just isn't the type of person that really wants to offend anyone. And with that type of group, with those women and those personalities, you have to just call a thing. And a lot of times Cynthia Bailey really would not want to do that. So that's why there have been times where Cynthia and Nene and Kenya were just like in this weird space, because Nene has had her times where she and Cynthia were not on good terms, and Kenya and Cynthia were, and then Nene came back into the picture, and because Nene and Kenya didn't really mesh well together, Cynthia did not want to offend either of the two. But at any rate, I'm not really talking about those relationships. I just wanted to talk about with Peter. I felt like he would stand up a lot of times for Cynthia or say things that really needed to be said because Cynthia would not do it. And that's what I really liked about Peter. He just didn't really care too much about what people thought or what their feelings were. He called out Nene times where she needed to be called out when Cynthia really didn't want to say anything. And especially during the time when Kenya was having a charity event where she said this was going to be in Nene's honor, and she was going to be donating money and the proceeds that were raised at this bachelor auction and this masquerade ball that she was having in Nene's honor. Nene did not come in with a good attitude, and Cynthia was very embarrassed, and she just didn't feel that the way Nene was acting was appropriate, but she wouldn't really say anything to Nene. She said it to Peter. She said it to her sister, but she wouldn't say anything to Nene. But Peter did say something to Nene, and it caused the two of them to get into a fight and get on the outs. And it was just very, very uncomfortable. But I do like Peter for those reasons. He will call a thing a thing. He doesn't really care about people's feelings. And I do believe that he had good intentions when he was married to Cynthia. And I do believe that he really did love her. I don't know what changed with Cynthia. I just don't know if she just got tired of the financial shenanigans. But I do also know that with these reality shows, when they want to portray a narrative, they're going to play on things to make things bigger than what they were. And Peter has a long history of success, but the show would not really share that information. They just made it look like Cynthia was always bailing Peter out. He was always failing financially in business, and she always had to use her money to bail him out. And I don't believe that that was really the case. I just believe that Cynthia just got tired of being in a relationship, because she said that before. She said how many times she had been engaged before, and that she just never made it down the aisle. She broke it off. Her child's father, Leon, the father of her daughter and their daughter, Noelle, he said it. He really did like Peter. But he said it. He said, you just are not really made for marriage. You just, we know that. That's just what it is. So I say all of that to say, after she got divorced from Peter, there was another guy that she met. And this was the season that Eva first appeared on the show. Eva was not a peach holder that season. She was actually a friend on the show at that time, and Nene introduced her on the show, ironically. But Eva let Cynthia know that this guy that she's been dating, and his name was Will, and we could all tell, but Cynthia was just, her head was just all in the clouds, that this guy was an opportunist. Candy called it. She said, this guy, it's just something about him. And I felt the vibes too. I think a lot of people could see it, but they just didn't want to burst Cynthia's happy bubble. But it ended up not working out, and thank God for that, because this guy was just something about him. He was just a creeper. He was a creeper. Now, after that happened, the last season of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, which was season 11, she introduced us to the guy that she's with now, that she's engaged to now, Mike. Now, he is a host on a sports show on Fox Sports Network, and now he's hosting something along with some other people on the Fox Soul Network. I've never watched it, but she said she was introduced to him by Steve Harvey. She said her good friend Steve Harvey. So sometimes you know how that goes when those so-called good friends introduce you to people, because remember, Niecy Nash and Sherri Shepherd are, and I believe they still are, but they definitely were really great friends. And Niecy Nash introduced Sherri Shepherd to her now ex-husband, and that guy put her through the ringer, and they had a child together, and she's paying child support and alimony, and he's just a loser. And she's been losing, ever since she's been with that guy. But yeah, introduced to Sherri Shepherd by a good friend. So with this guy, Mike Hill, I don't know. I don't believe that he's like the other Will, who was the creeper, but this Mike, because he's got a career, obviously, but a lot of us didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was before he was introduced as her boyfriend on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. But becoming a figurehead, becoming someone that we got to see on a regular basis on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, it introduced this guy to a whole new audience. So the first season that he was on the show with her, introduced to us, they weren't dating for years before that. He was already telling people, oh, I love Cynthia, I want to marry her, I want her to be my wife. And I just was thinking, wow, that's kind of fast, but okay. You're not 20, you're not 30, you're in your 50s, early 50s. So okay, maybe you feel like because of your age you need to rush things, but sometimes you really need to slow things down a little bit more when you are older. Because there is this thing with this older population of people that are the highest in terms of getting STDs. And I'm not saying that they have STDs, so guys, please don't think I'm correlating it with that. But what I mean by that is a lot of the older population, they get into those things because they feel like because of their age, they need to rush into things, and they're not taking things a bit slower, and it causes some disasters. Now, she's engaged to this guy. He's an okay looking dude. He seems, like he really does love her. So again, I'm not saying that the relationship isn't real, but I'm just wondering, will this relationship really work out? Because from the first season, him saying, he really loves her, he wants to get married, it just seemed like it was a bit rushed. And then the second season, which was this current season, season 12, it's coming out how he has cheated in all of his past relationships. And he's even said these things in front of his daughters from the previous relationships. And he's been talking about him writing a book. And now he's an author and he's written a book about it. And I'm thinking, why do we really care to hear about that? Why do we really care to read that? Is this just an opportunity for you to get a cash grab because you're being introduced to a large audience of women? Because I don't know if there's a lot of women that are watching Fox Sports and knows who this guy is. A lot of men are not going to buy books about this guy writing about his previous relationships and how he cheated in his previous relationships. So to me, it seems opportunistic. I'll just say that. I'm not saying he is an opportunist in, the definition of what an opportunist is, but the moves that he made with this book in front of this audience of those who watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta is definitely opportunistic. And there was one episode where Cynthia was bringing it up and just, asking the question, like, what makes me different? Why would it be different with me if you were this way with every previous relationship? And here's the thing, Cynthia, you're not different. I did a previous episode of my podcast where I asked the question, can cheaters change? I do believe that cheaters can change, but that comes with some stipulations. A lot of times it's usually someone who is older, they were that way philandering in their earlier years, and they were never really committed to anyone. It was just that was what they were doing, and they weren't living in a way that was disciplined. But once they really find someone that they really want to be with, and they realize that that's not what life is all about, then they're able to commit. They're able to keep it in their pants and just be with the person that they love and that they want to be with. Now, with this guy, I don't really know. And she won't really know until time tells the tale. They're supposed to be getting married in, I believe, October of this year. So 10/10/2020. These days how everybody wants to get married on a magical date that has numbers that have significance and meaning. I mean, whatever. If the marriage isn't going to work, it's not going to work. I don't care what day of the week and month and year you get married. That really has nothing to do with it. But I'm wondering, what do you guys think? Do you feel that this relationship will work out? I just feel that it's something that's moved a little bit too fast. I mean, one season they were just dating. The next season they're now getting married. They're engaged and they're getting married. And there's a lot that was just revealed about him that she really was not aware of. And I feel like those are things and discussions that should have been had in detail before he went and got a ring and asked her to get married. Because Cynthia, I feel, is more in it for the newness of the relationships versus the commitment. And that's just what I've seen from her from all of the years that I've been watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta. So when I ask, will this relationship work out? It's not so much just about the guy, because it takes two to make a relationship work. And for me, I just feel like Cynthia is really a commitment phobe. And also she is one that just kind of gets tired, and she likes to be who she is, single and free. And so being tied down and being in a relationship, I feel like just date. I mean, why get married to this guy? I don't know. But then again, I hate to say it, but this is the Being Beautifully Honest podcast, so I'm just trying to call things as I see it. But being a real housewife, you have to have a storyline. So we go from dating, so the new relationship, next season you're engaged, and then the next season you're getting married. Then what is after that? Because that's kind of what it was with Peter. First season she was on there, she got married to Peter. The next season they had, some marital issues, but they worked them out. Next season after that, I believe, or maybe it was the same season, they renew their marriage vows on an island somewhere, because they always have these trips that they claim they're paying for and that they plan, but we all know that the producers are the ones that are behind all of that. But it's a storyline. Somebody's got to have the storyline. So yeah, I don't really know. So I guess we all will see how this all works out. But how appropriate. We will see how this all will work out, right? So you guys let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Thanks so much for listening to this episode, and thank you all for your support of the channel and the podcast. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. This is the Minister of Beauty, here to share the Bible. That's business, inspiration, beauty, life, and enjoyment. And until the next episode, have an amazingly blessed and beautiful day.